Hey there, honey bunnies. Welcome to episode 116 of the Sovereign Storytellers podcast with your host, Michelle Wolf. Oh, I ran out of air. Do you ever do that? Trying to sound all professional and then you time it wrong and run out of air. I'm not in the part of the house that has the best sound, which is the bathroom. But I didn't want to hang out in there because both my neighbors pesticided the shit out of their properties, and now I'm dealing with like ants and palmetto bugs. And I don't know if you know what a palmetto bug is, but I hope you've never seen one and that you never do, because they are ginormous and incredibly disgusting. So hanging out in the bathroom makes me my recording studio makes me a little twitchy right now while I use some natural stuff. But of course, when you use natural pesticides, it takes longer and people want quick death. So anyway, whatever. So what I'm trying to say is I apologize if the sound on this one isn't perfect. It's never perfect. What am I talking about? Okay, anyway. So this episode 116 is going to be on ancestral shame. And there's differing opinions about if you can even deal with your ancestors' stuff. Like some people say it's your ancestors' stuff and you can't process their pain. It's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. Other people say, including the dead people that I work with, that yes, you can. So it might be just semantics when we're trying to have conversations about these things that make it sound like we're talking about different subjects, or whether you can or can't accomplish anything, but who knows, what the hell. So anyway, I'm going to tell you that yes, I think you can dissolve and change ancestral stuff in your lineage. And here's why. So when I'm doing readings for people from Be in the Gang, the crystal people, the crystalline, whatever they are often, so people come get readings, right? We all do this and we're like, well, should I take that job or should I move here or there, or, how do I make more money or stuff like that? And what Be in the Gang tend to do is say, yeah, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about soul level stuff. That's what's really impacting you. So they go to soul level and they often are telling people like the things you're struggling with today began 400 years ago. They'll say like across the water or across a continent or on the other side of the planet. And they'll take people back and describe the original wound. Now, we could say, well, we all get wounded. And so why do some wounds stick and then become a thing for hundreds of years? And somebody now living on the West Coast has to deal with some original wounding that happened in ancient Japan or something, like what happens, like why that? Well, that original wound was deeply traumatic and it never got processed. We get wounded all the time, right? Did you get your feelings hurt today? Maybe. Did I get my feelings hurt today? I don't think so. I don't think I did today, but I probably did yesterday. But, we get wounded. Things happen. And depending on our resources, our internal resources, as well as our support networks, really determines how we bounce back. And in times like these, where we're just hit and hit and hit and hit, and everybody's getting hit at the same time, it's very difficult to process our traumas or our pains. Referencing my previous episode, that pain is relative and it has to be tended to or it becomes bigger pain. So when those things aren't processed to resolution, it sticks. It becomes a core wound, so to speak, or an original wound. And because it isn't processed to resolution, it's sort of frozen in time. It would be like watching a movie and then the movie snaps right about 3/4 of the way through the movie. And you don't ever get the resolution of the ending. What the fuck? Right? That's aggravating. So take that to the trauma of a whole tribe starving to death, or war, or a village massacre, or a rape, or, whatever, all the terrible things that we do to each other, witnessing something horrible, and then dying after, or not being in a culture that can help you get through it. We don't need to be psychologists to resolve trauma. Usually we need a hug and somebody to talk to who really listens and doesn't try to fix it. But, and then ancient cultures were better about physical movement, dancing, shaking, twirling, doing things that help the body process the resolution. So when you have an original wound like that isn't processed as a resolution before the body dies for that lifetime, and there isn't it's not that the soul then carries that wound, it's that it left a wound in the DNA, the energy DNA and the actual physical DNA, and that bruise on the DNA strand is what gets handed down and handed down and handed down and replayed and replayed and replayed. And every time it's handed down and replayed, it's a bit bruisier. It doesn't get better over time. It actually gets worse over time and more pronounced over time because it's being poked at. If you poke a bruise, ew, it's not going to get well. It's going to continue to bleed and get worse. So that's what they're talking about, is that there's the energetics of these DNA structures that get handed down, and the actual DNA that gets handed down biologically. So this is biological family stuff we're talking about. Anybody dead, anybody on the other side you can work with. And lots of dead people show up for you to work with that aren't related to you biologically speaking, but it's irrelevant. If someone is on the other side and they're helpful to you, it doesn't matter if they're in your lineage. They don't have to be great-great-grandma Susanna. They can be, great-great-grandma of the next door neighbor. Like, I have a friend, colleague, client sometimes whose great grandmother sometimes comes and hangs out with me when I'm pouring the evening whiskey shot, and she's super cool, and I like when she shows up and I can talk to her. So don't get hung up too much on this, but what I'm saying is, when we're carrying ancestral shame, that could be thought of as a curse. I've said many times I don't believe in curses. I don't believe in Hollywood type or story type curses where someone casts a spell on you. I don't believe that. If you believe it, then I think that can stick on you because now you believe that someone has that power over you. And I don't want to get too far off on that, but that original wound could be, I guess, called a family curse, right? Because the family just keeps acting it out and acting it out. But it's not coming from where we think it's coming from. And I think when we misunderstand the origin of things, it makes it hard to resolve them because we're kind of coming at it at a slight diagonal. We're just a little off, and we're not actually approaching the problem or the situation cleanly, like head on, with full understanding about the mechanisms of what's happening here. Now, some people don't give two shits about the mechanism, and that's fine. If you can go to someone and have some kind of ceremony or somebody do something for you that you believe really removes something for you, I'm a big fan of the placebo effect. I don't care. It doesn't matter if we're imagining a solution. That what matters is the end result. I don't care how you get there. So I'm just talking about this one piece of this whole big package of ancestral shame, right? So however you are able to resolve it You resolve it for your family. There is no linear time. So and they really, the Chris B really like zapped me one night when he was like, we know time is folded, more like baklava than a ruler that goes sequentially number by number. But if you think of the oneness, we're all the things we're remembering are us also in these layers of time. Like, spend some time spending on that and lose a night's sleep like I did. But so when we resolve something in this current physical body, let's say it that way, it has a ripple effect throughout time and space. These layers, this folded up origami, or like a paper fan. I've heard people describe it like a paper fan of time, and where we can hold the whole thing at the same time. Is this making any sense at all? The reason I brought this up is Hiro Boga, who I love, and I'm actually I'm an alumni of her Rule Your World from the Inside Out course that she's offering live. Again, that's actually coming up. I'm sure if you go to hiroboga.com and look for, it's HIROBOGA, and look for Rule Your World from the Inside Out, you'll probably find it. It's starting, I think, in the end of September. I don't know how much it is because I got the screaming crazy good deal for being an alumni. But when I took it, it was recorded and I didn't get to take it live, so I'm super excited about it. Anywho, she posted a thing on Facebook tonight. I'm going to read it to you. It really struck me about the ancestral shame because yesterday I had pulled the curse card from the Mystical Shaman Oracle card deck, which you can look up. Mystical Shaman Oracle card deck. Number 14 is the curse. This is so convoluted, I'm sorry. I started a class with Janet Connor, who I also love, Conner. I think I've mentioned this maybe out on my Facebook page. She wrote a book a long time ago. It just has been re-released, Writing Down Your Soul, How to Activate and Listen to the Extraordinary Voice Within. So a little like morning pages, but not. And I've had a practice similar to this for years, but it's been inconsistent. So I started that, and as part of that, I pulled a card. Then I got this fucking curse card, and it got me started thinking about all that shit. And so today, of course, because I was like, really? Come on now. Like, it's been a couple of years, and I've been working with the dead people and doing all the shit. Is this curse concept, whatever it is that really still a thing? And when you ask a question, every time the answers will show up. And the more often you ask questions, the faster and faster they show up. So I asked that question yesterday, found this post today. So here's her post. This is from Hiro Boga. No one benefits from your shaming or diminishment. No one. Be proud of who you are and where you come from. Take a healthy pride in every aspect of your incarnation. I really want you to listen to this sentence. Be proud of who you are and where you come from, because this relates to ancestral shame. Healthy pride is an entirely different beast from arrogance, entitlement, or lack of empathy. It is the foundation of sovereignty. In order to be an effective agent of wholeness, a skillful servant of the sacred, in order to bless and effect positive change in the world, you need to access the power of your incarnation. This is the piece about embodiment. You've got to be in your body. You are incarnated in a body. And spending all your time trying to forget that is fucking you up. Spending all your time yearning for your star home is holding you back on really being effective within the parameters of being in a physical body. So you need to access the power of your incarnation. And you cannot stand in your soul's power If you are ashamed of any aspect of who you are or where you come from, when you're awake and aware, you start to see how all the little pieces of your life are interwoven into a concept. Because the palmetto bugs is a thing that is wrapped up. Because I've been asking that. Why the freaking palmetto bugs? Why am I seeing them? You generally don't even see them. And one crawled on my leg the other night, and I swear to God, I wanted to just chop my leg off because I didn't want to. I couldn't get the image out of my head. They're horrible. They're huge. They're like massive. They're like as long as your thumb. Big, black, shiny, wavy fucking things on their head. Ugh. And they're associated with dirt, and they're not, of course. You can have the cleanest house on the planet. But in the South particularly, and maybe elsewhere, I don't know, but I can only speak from being from the South. If you have bugs in your house, it's really associated with being bad. There's a lot of shame. Poverty, stupid, uneducated, cracker, it's got all these negative things attached to it. So these stupid ass palmetto bugs, which have been on my nerves because they're showing up. So when they're showing up regularly, you got to start asking. And I've been asking, like, what's up with these damn bugs? What is going on here? Then I get the curse card. Then we get this. Then ancestral shame pops in. You cannot stand in your soul's power if you are ashamed of any aspect of who you are or where you come from. Well, I thought I had resolved that. But when I really thought about it, I'm like, all right, well, this is why I tell all my clients, don't go running to the internet to look up the spiritual meaning of palmetto bugs or whatever the fuck it is you're seeing a lot of. Sit with yourself first. Take a week and sit with the bluebird that keeps showing up, or the damn bug, or the mouse, or whatever it is that keeps showing up. Let it tell you. Then later, or if you really can't get to it, go see what's on the internet. Because for me, if I had gone to the internet and looked up palmetto bug, I could have completely missed that this bug is a piece of this ancestral shame that I'm still packing around about where I come from, which is poor cotton pickers. If you haven't listened to me before, go back and listen to a few episodes. I talk a lot about my dad's family. Dirt ass poor, picking cotton in the fields. Nobody got to go to school past 5th grade, and they really wanted to go to school because they were highly intelligent people. So they read a lot. So you wouldn't have known that that none of them got to go to school longer than 5th grade. I think my dad got to go the longest, and I think that was 5th grade. A lot of them didn't make it past 2nd or 3rd grade because they needed to be out in the fields picking cotton or sweet potatoes or whatever crop was in season at the time, because that's how they lived. And they lived out in the woods with no electricity and no running water, and just as poor can be. Lots of shame apparently still in there about that, because when I sat with, all right, I've seen the damn bug 3 times, and now not only am I seeing them, they're crawling up my damn leg. I screamed. Oh my God. I'm surprised nobody called the cops. I screamed so loud when that bug crawled on me. But when I sat and thought about that, I was like, well, this is how you can analyze your own symbol. When I think about this symbol, what do I feel? How does my body respond? What kind of stories come to my mind? What are my memories around this bug? What do I not want to think about related to this bug? Where are the situations where I've had to deal with this bug, and what was going on at the time, and how did I feel about all that, right? So if you're seeing, little lizards on your porch and it's kind of unusual, I mean, if you live in Arizona, you're always going to have little lizards on your porch, but you know what I mean. Like if it's unusual, it's getting your attention, you've seen it 3 or 4 times, you got to start asking those questions like, what is it? What's your message to me? And believe me, I did not want to ask the palmetto bug, or sometimes we call them water bugs because they're often around water. And it's 100% humidity here every damn day almost, so we pretty much live under the sea. in Georgia. But I didn't want to ask that palmetto bug what the hell its message was, but you kind of have to if you're going to stay awake in your life. You have to ask those hard questions. So when I started asking those questions, I was like, there's shame here. When I think about these bugs, I think about past memories. I think about my uh, ancestors, my this lifetime relatives, let's say relatives, and all the poverty and all the crap and all the crud and all the stuff. Well, if you think about that stuff and you still experience a flooding of shame in your body, that lets you know it's not resolved, right? If you think about it and have an emotional response to it that's negative, it's not resolved. I don't have any peace with that. Well, I'm not going to say that. I do have a lot of peace with that because I've written about it, I've talked about it, gone to therapy about it, talked to you all about it. I've got it all out in the open for a long time. I never told anybody the extent of the poverty because I was so embarrassed about it. And going to school and stuff and like having, 2 sets of clothes get picked on, all that stuff. I used to never tell anybody any of that because I was so ashamed of it. So I would say after exploring all this stuff and all the information that's coming up, just probably from starting that class, we hadn't even started yet and this stuff started coming up. I know I've still got it, right? So when you're analyzing your own dream symbols or your animal allies, symbols that are showing up to you, really pay attention to how your body's responding to that symbol and the memories that are attached to the feelings around that symbol that's coming up, okay? So I'm going to read this again. You cannot stand in your soul's power if you are ashamed of any aspect of who you are or where you come from. This can be as little as a one-time shameful sexual abuse event or something like that, to as large as, multi-generational poverty or repeated incest or things like that, money problems, things that get buried in shame. It can be, just like last podcast, it can look very air quotes small. Oh, it was just that one time that he violated me. Oh, it was just that one time that me and my friends stole something or whatever. It don't rate it. It's relative, right? If you haven't heard episode 115, go listen to that. I'm sorry that it's so damn long. I don't know why I'm talking so long lately. Listen to it in parts if you have to. So it can look small, but if you still have a reaction of shame around a memory, that is blocking you from standing in your soul's power because you still have shame about an aspect of yourself. Now, in this post, she's talking about who you are now and where you come from, like your people, your places, where you came from. If your ancestors distorted the pattern that the devas of your lineage hold for its perfect unfolding through the choices they made and the actions that they took, your presence and your choices, your actions, your generativity can realign your lineage with its soul. If your ancestors have some unhealed, unresolved traumatic events, which then led them to make certain choices, which then led the next generation to make certain choices. Do you remember the Breck shampoo commercial? And she'll tell 2 friends, and she'll tell 2 friends, and so on, and so on. It just keeps handed down, handed down. But the choices we make and the awarenesses we do and the actions we take and the shame that we face head on can realign our lineage with its soul. So healthy pride doesn't require blindness to history. We don't have to say those things didn't happen. It requires faith and a vision to which you are devoted. A vision you live every day in all your messy humanity. In the crucible of an increasingly complex and often devastatingly painful world. Your soul, this is important, your soul chose the circumstances of your birth for very specific reasons, many of which will remain a mystery until you come into right relationship with them and with the grace that holds you throughout your life. Being ashamed of where you come from is a kind of blasphemy. That last line just really gave me chills. Being ashamed of where you come from is a kind of blasphemy. What? It is a blasphemy to have shame about your people and where you come from and the things that you grew up with and the things that were done to you and the things that you've done to others, because ain't none of us blameless. Shame. Shame's a bitch. Shame is the one thing that if we could get a handle on that, our world would change a significant amount. So being ashamed of where you come from is a kind of blasphemy. Ancestral shame. So that my dad's side of the family was super, super poor. It's not that my mom's side of the family didn't struggle with money, but by comparison, they were super wealthy and they weren't even middle class. Like they still struggled a lot with money. There still was never enough. But my dad's family was like below, way below, like barely subsistence level, barely getting by, never enough of anything, not enough food, not enough clothes, not enough nothing. But the other side of the family had the German stuff. And it wasn't a good idea to be German anytime after, World War II. You didn't want to let people know that you had German heritage, so there's some shame there. All the shame attached to anybody with any kind of German heritage. And that's a piece I haven't actually fully explored yet, but I don't have an emotional reaction when I talk about it. That's how you know if it's something that you need to work with. When I talk about my grandfather's discomfort with being German and how he often would sort of downplay the German and upplay the Hungarian part and the Irish part. And I noticed that as a kid, but I didn't know why until much later in life. But when I talk about that, I don't have shame about it. Yeah, I get it. Of course, it would make sense, and it probably was to some degree dangerous to let people know that you were German and proud to be German at a time when it wasn't a good idea to be German. And so much of Central and South Texas had huge German populations. So that's how you can tell for yourself when you're exploring these things. I can talk about his shame and that shame, and conceptually I understand that shame, but my body doesn't react to it. I'm not experiencing anything in my body except that's interesting and how sad. Like I understand it, it's sad, but my stomach isn't twisted up or anything like that. But when I talk about my dad's side and the poverty stuff, and then the poverty stuff in my own growing up separate from my dad with, at later ages, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6th grade, 7th grade, seriously extreme poverty then, too, in Texas and, away from the Mississippi scene. So a different playing out of really barely subsistence poverty, but still there. When I talk about that, I still have the stomach thing. When I see one of those goddamn bugs in my house, I still overreact. It's overreaction, right? I told my daughter the other day that a palmetto bug had gone and died by my bed, so I had to get in on the other side because it was late at night, and even though it was there, it was dead, but I couldn't make myself pick it up. Like I overreact to it. if someone was living with me, they would be, why are you making this such a big damn deal? Just pick the bug up. And I couldn't do it. So I just had to pretend it wasn't there. And then unfortunately I got up the next day and it was gone. I think one of the cats might have had a midnight snack. I don't know. So gross. Anyway, I have an ridiculous, overblown reaction to those pieces. So that lets me know I've still got that ancestral shame. So it's not just me carrying the shame, it's the shame they had. The shame of them going to school with no clothes and, you know, not with nothing. With nothing. I can't even describe it. Imagine that you are, this is my Aunt Irene. As soon as she was old enough, to drag a chair over to the stove. So we're talking like 4 or 5 years old. I'm a little. She got up at the crack of dawn and started cooking breakfast for everybody. She was the oldest. No, she wasn't. Was she the oldest? I can't remember. There's 12 of them. So, then my dad's job was to get up at the crack of dawn and go light all the fireplaces and get all that stuff going. And then once everybody ate, which wasn't much, sometimes biscuit and salt pork. Salt pork is the fat off of pig, and it's just fat. Like it's not, you fry it up and it's salty and it's greasy, but there's no like meat on it. It's white. It's all, you throw it in beans. Like if you've ever had a can of pork and beans, there's that little weird squishy thing in the pork and beans. That's salt pork. Anyway, that's sometimes all they had. Flour and water, biscuits with some salt pork. And then they all head out to the fields. And if you were old enough to drag a bag behind you, like 3 years old, and take your little tiny fingers and pull cotton off the thing, then that's what you did all day. You, uh, you know, you can't even, I can't even quite wrap my head around it. So severe. So they had that shame. They wanted to go to school and couldn't. They weren't allowed to. And I don't even know anything about their parents. I know that my grandfather was raised on a reservation, but I don't know which one. And I don't know anything about his parents. I don't know anything about my grandmother's parents. I know where they came from England at some point because I've done a bunch of research on Ancestry.com, but I don't know what she thought or anything like that. But my body knows, and your body knows. Your body knows if you're carrying shame that is handed down to you because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to overreact like that about a bug. You've got spots in your life where you overreact and it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Like, why such a visceral reaction? My ex-husband had a visceral, overblown, white hot hatred for the church, any church, and he'd never been to church a day in his life, and his family did not go to church when he was growing up. And yet, if you brought up the word church, he would just almost lose it. When we moved to Georgia, he just barely could keep his mouth shut because everyone you come into contact with down here says, have a blessed day. You don't get like, have a good day. You get, have a blessed day. And in LJ, there was a lot of little old ladies who'd wander through the store while they're shopping and they're singing a gospel hymn or something, which I think is sweet and I think it's good intentions. Doesn't bother me a bit. And so I asked him early on in our relationship, I'm like, were you like tortured as a child? Did you grow up Catholic? Were you like one of those altar boys that got really abused? Or he was like, no. I was like, have you ever gone to church? And he said only one time with his mother, and it was a Pentecostal church and they were getting all rowdy and he walked out. And so you know what I mean? He's got ancestral stuff. His body is screaming, there's an old wound here. And when we don't address it, we act weird. We make choices that make no sense. We have replicating patterns in our life that make no sense. And no matter what we do, we can't seem to shift them. It's difficult. Other people offer solutions and you follow the solution to the letter and it doesn't work. And you do go to therapy and get hypnosis and you do all the things and all the other things and some more things and spend some more money and the pattern doesn't shift. We could, I guess, call that a curse. I don't like calling it a curse because it's disempowering. A curse sounds like something that was someone else did to you and now you're just stuck with it. And that's a very disempowering place for me. For me. Anybody follow George Hahn on Instagram? He has a whole For Me series, which is hilarious. Totally off topic there. So anyway, so Hero Boga writes that. And I encourage you to go to her page, which I think is just facebook.com/Hero Boga. I don't know. I mean, it's the only person with that name I've ever seen. So I'm sure if you put it in on Facebook, you find it. And it is from a day ago. Talking about healthy pride and sovereignty and whatnot. Okay. So let me read this curse card to you in case you're struggling with some similar ancestral patterns here. Here's the good news. When they are resolved, because I have some that are resolved and I can freely talk about them and they don't bother me. Like I don't have that reaction. So that's the key, is the emotional reaction. If you feel that internal, it usually will pinch in your stomach or your throat and you'll want to push it away. Like when the thought comes, you want to push it away and distract yourself. Or you ask, what does this mean? And the information starts to come and you're like, oh no, I think I need a bag of Doritos now. Like you don't want to hear it. And so you just push it away. So that's how you know it's important. Because if it wasn't, your body wouldn't be reacting like that. So card 14, if you have this deck, you can look at it. It's beautiful. Mystical Shaman Oracle card deck, number 14, The Curse. It was so ominous. The essence of this card refers to the limiting stories of our ancestors and the karma from former lifetimes that preordains the events of our lives. It is the source of negative patterns. It can show up as a disease, a destructive force, or a blockage on our creative energy. The curse holds us hostage to a false story that we confuse for reality. Recognizing the original wound that is playing out in our life can heal it. So that's the first section. And then the invitation of this card is, it is time to recognize the source of your limitations. Did your grandparents live with a mindset of scarcity? Did you inherit genes for heart disease? Were you a slave or a master in a past life? This karmic legacy is ready and waiting to be seen, to be untangled, and to be released. Honor the players and their stories. Forgive everyone and everything, and craft a new life course for yourself. Now, I didn't draw the card reversed, but if you have this deck and you ever drew it reversed, the medicine is be aware of your actions. Act with impeccable intention so as not to create a debt or karma that sooner or later someone has to pay. What you do to others, you do to yourself and to the people you love the most. Now you have the opportunity to clean it up. So let me go back to that first part where the curse holds us hostage to a false story that we confuse for reality. I didn't know earlier in my life why I had such a negative reaction to the stereotype of a cracker or white trash. The people in the beat up hoopty car, and they're all wearing clothes that don't fit, and they're usually overweight, and they don't look good. Even if they're pretty, they're not. They're dirty. They open the door and trash falls out. The whole ugly stereotype of white trash people. My reaction to that, even as a younger person, was overblown, right? It was big. It was a big, ew, gross, I hate those people kind of reaction when those people were my people. So, I didn't think in those terms at the time. In fact, I went the other way and was kind of snotty and said, I could never be that because I didn't know the whole full story. When you're young, you're an idiot, like an extra idiot. And you're like, oh, that's not me. And then you find out later about young and your whole world falls apart. Like everything that irritates you is you. So annoying. We confuse it for reality. We confuse it for the way things are. And we don't, excuse me for yawning, we don't often question, why am I reacting like this? Why do I have such disgust and contempt? It seems kind of big. Like, do other people have this kind of contempt? Like, let me ask some questions. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when you ask those questions, the answers come. And it can really shake you up. But if you have a recurring pattern in your life or something that just, no matter what you do, it just won't budge. This is where you dive in. And it's as simple as this. The next line says, recognizing the original wound that is playing out in our life can heal it. Honor the players and their stories. That's really all it takes, which is free and takes about 5 minutes, or maybe longer if it's a long-standing, pretty dramatic thing. I think what we call past life regressions is us activating our DNA memories or our collective unconscious. And I think there's a thought out there that you have to dive in and actually experience the pain of that original wound. And I don't believe that's true. I think sometimes it happens like that, but I don't think it has to happen like that. Often, and I've seen this in my clients too, and in my own life, us just having that ding dong moment of like, oh, and the nickel drops, and we all of a sudden get it that we overreact to a certain situation because of a past situation. Often that's all it takes because we get it. Oh, there was this past thing and it's now sensitized me to this current thing, and that I can deal with. I can work with my nervous system. I can coach myself. I can remember that it's just a damn bug and it's dead. So I really can just pick it up with a paper towel. Like it's, I can know that, oh, this reminds me of this. And then there's these layers. And I'm not, I'm exaggerating the bug thing for purposes of getting this point across. I'm not devastated by it, but it did get my attention, and it did all these other layers of things let me know that, oh, I've got some more uh, ancestral recognizing to do. I'm still pushing away. I'm still not fully loving and having compassion for the people I come from. I still have shame from where I came from, and they carried shame from where they came from, and that's blocking me from having full access to my soul's power, and I'm not interested in that. I want full access. I want the whole plug in the socket. I want all the electricity. So anything in the way of that, I do want to know about. And every day I ask for that. Show me what I'm not seeing that if I saw it would make a difference. Show me what I'm missing that if I understood it would change my life. Show me all the places where I'm avoiding knowledge. Show me, a lot of times I just say, show me. Show me what I need to see today. Help me understand what I need to understand today. Because I want the whole plug in the damn socket. I've been running on a half a plug. I don't want a half a plug life. I want a whole plug. So, ancestral shame. can be resolved in your own body. And I firmly believe that because we are our ancestors in so many ways, with the layers of time and space and all the twisty weird stuff that our brains are never going to understand, plus the way we talk about people, the way we think about people, the way we feel about our people. It doesn't mean you have to go hang out with them. Like, I would not go spend time out in the woods I don't even know what those people do now. But I also don't want this hardness, this bit of shame that's in my energy field, in my current energy field. So, and we can't just chop it out, right? You can't just say, well, I'm going to put this in a little box and not think about it. That's what we did earlier in life. We put stuff in little boxes and we tried not to think about it. But then when you see a bug and you freak out, it lets you know that something's in a box somewhere that needs to be taken out and actually dealt with. So my point in making a podcast episode about this is, I know that if I'm going through something, that at least one of you is going through it too. And I just want you to know that when you feel confused by the patterns in your life, a lot of times it's because it's an original wounding that has come down through your DNA, your family, your biologic DNA. So this is like a whole nother deal if you're adopted and you can't access anything but your body memory. If you don't know shit about your parents, I am so fortunate that I know so much about my immediate family's family, about my relatives. I'm really fortunate that way. If I'd been adopted, I wouldn't have any of this. So if you are adopted or you don't have anybody to ask these questions of, just your body will tell you. Look for the things that repeatedly show up in your life that you have a very strong visceral reaction to, and especially pay attention to if you have shame about it. Let's say it's a recurring pattern where you keep running into the same kind of person and you have an interaction that makes you feel stupid or floods you with shame for some reason. That is your body letting you know that there's a wound there, and it may be from your early childhood. But if there's nothing, a lot of people say, and I believe them, my clients would say, but nothing that matches that happened. Now I know it's because it happened to one of their parents or their grandparents, or even way, way back, a multiple great grandparent from 500 years ago. I think 400 years is the furthest extent of any reading I've done. The most ancient one was like 400 years ago. Way, way back. So, and then look for the places where you've done so much work and it won't shift. And if it won't shift, and you really, really are doing the work, like a lot of times we lie to ourselves we tell ourselves such tall tales. We tell ourselves we're doing all the work and we're holding ourselves accountable, and we're really not. Like, we're doing the best we can, but we're really not actually doing all the work. We really are still self-medicating with food, or we really aren't exercising. And then we're like, I don't know why I don't feel good. Well, we're lying to ourselves. So, but if you really are totally honest with yourself and you really have done so much work and you still have this stupid recurring pattern, start to ask that question. And that's what it can look like. You're looking for your body's information. You're looking for overblown reactions to things that are it's out of context emotion, right? Nobody should freak out about a mouse in the house or a bug in the house or whatever. There's always some other attachment to it, or a certain type of person. Look for overblown reactions. Look for stuck places, things that won't heal. And then just ask. Show me. Every morning when you get up, ask Now, if you want to now, understand that this may mean you go into an awakening enlightenment process, and that's painful. Guaranteed, it will be painful. It's worth it. Like, it's worth it. Because when you get on the other side, you don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. But assess yourself. Like, if you're already dealing with a lot of heavy duty stuff, now might not be the time to go unwinding a bunch of ancestral bullshit. Like, try to get through the day. Later, maybe in a month or two, ask yourself again, like, would now be a good, you know what? This would be a great time to employ your human design authority. Ask your body if it's the right time to start asking these questions about, could this pattern be an ancestral, unhealed, original wounding? Is this something that my ancestor experienced and it never got healed and it's just been handed down? Could you show me a little more about this recurrent situation and this twisty thing going on in my stomach? Like, why, when I see that kind of person, do I want to throw up? Why, or am I hypercritical about them? Why, when I see this kind of bug, do I want to vomit and I like react like a crazy person? Like, what is this about? You know what I mean? Questions will open all the doors. Questions will open all the doors every time. It might take a few days, it might take a few weeks, but you will get the answers when you start asking questions. And please, if you have the inner resources to do the work, because your life will be so much better when you get on the other side of it. And it really is not that hard. You don't have to go take a course. You might need therapy depending on what it is. Get yourself a good trauma-informed therapist. Don't go to okay, I'm not going to tangent off on that. Find yourself a nice EMDR therapist. I'm going to stop there. But you know, train your nervous system, do the things that you do to take care of yourself so that you heal these areas of this ancestral shame, this ancestral pain, and you set yourself free, but you set everybody else around you free too. It ripples back throughout time and space. I absolutely believe that. All right. Until we meet again, time is running out. Another week that you can sign up for Unfuckwithable Warriors or Holistic Magic. The short program is the Warriors group. The long program is Holistic Magic. They're both on my website, thatmichellewolf.com. Right there at the top, you can see them. Go check it out. September 15th is the last day. Oh, shit. September 14th is the last day you can sign up for the Warriors group because it actually starts on the 15th. And the 15th is the last day you can sign up ever for Holistic Magic because that course is ending. This is the last time it will be offered. I will not be offering this course in with another name or a twist or a spin on it. It's over. It's done. So if you've been looking at it, get it now because I absolutely will not be. I've been given the message that that door is closing, and this is the last group I'll be doing in the 6-month group like that. All right, take care of yourself. Remember to breathe. You can do this. You absolutely can do this. You're surrounded by helpers, visible and invisible. Call on all your team invisible to help support you and help you see what you need to see and do what you need to do. Until we talk again, think less, feel more. I'll talk to you later.